morning. Oh,
Okay, go ahead.
okay. I'd like to convene the July 29, 2024 meeting of the Niskuna Complete Streets Committee. Roll call quickly. Tess Healy, I don't see, but may soon be joining us. Carla Dougal is here. Hello, Carla. How are you today? William Chapman, I'm here joining the committee from Ordway, Colorado, where the temperature is almost 100 degrees. So,
Oh my God.
and has been 100 for the last few days. So we stay under canopies. They give you water bottles as soon as you hit the town limit and ordered to drink them regularly. Jim Levy joining us. Not yet.
Jim is with his kids today.
Okay, good. Andrew Millspaugh is also at Scout Camp and not joining us today. Catherine Kuzman is here. Hello, Catherine. How are you today? And Ben O'Shea also busy.
No, Ben's joining here.
Ben's joining. Okay, good. So he will be dropping in soon. Good. And we have Laura Robertson, our town planner, who is the coordinator for Complete Streets Committee, joining us. And I also saw Teresa Bergami, who does a lot of secretarial work for the committee that was here. And we are
Bergami, Bill.
Teresa Bergami. And we have a special guest to speak at privilege of the floor. Ben O'Shea has joined us. Hello, Ben. How are you today?
I'm good, thanks. How are you, Bill?
Good. I'm good. Good. Thank you. Okay. Our next piece of business is privilege of the floor. And we have a resident from Crimson Oak Court who's joining us today that would like to say a few words. So please go ahead.
Yeah, hello. I'm Roberta
Dr. Miller.
Yep.
Dr. Roberta Miller is here. So
thank you. So I'm following up from when Linda was here last month. Linda's on Luter. And what we did is we sent out a letter and a petition to our neighbors on Crimson Oak Court and Van Antwerp. And we've received the signatures, and I brought them again because of vacations and other things. Some people were not able to sign. We did DocuSign, and some people couldn't do DocuSign, so we hand delivered them. But other people are on vacation. But we did get a large amount of signatures to support the exploration of a multi-use pathway. So we got that, and I guess we have not contacted the county yet because I contacted our representatives, but not the two people who work in, you had given us the names, but I didn't have the emails for them.
Okay.
Engineering, I think.
Yeah, Paul Sheldon.
Right.
Paul Sheldon is the director of public
Right.
works. It's Paul Sheldon. And then Peter
Public
Knutson, Knutson, is the director of engineering for the county. And then they obviously work with our county legislators, Michelle Osterlich, Tom Constantine, Sarah Mae Pratt, Pete Frazzoni, and Kathy Gatta, that are District 3 county legislative representatives, and that's both Niskuna and Glenville is District 3. So
Right. So I wanted to write them to see, where we stand. Also, you know, Jessica Krakowski. So she had contacted me because this petition was only from Crimson Oak Court to Knott Street Extension. And she said that she would like the petition to include from the Knott Street Extension to Balltown Road. So I told her we'd be glad to support that, but because I'm going back to work, she needs to take that on.
Okay.
And she said she was willing to do that. So that's where we stand right now. We asked our constituents if they were interested in having a copy of the police chief's report, and nobody was interested in pursuing that. We talked about that the last time. And as far as it was decided that the unofficial pathway through those two properties was not viable, and everybody agreed to that.
And if I may, Dr. Miller, that's because of the stairs going down and also just in between two properties, the
Liability
residents
issue.
were not sure they wanted a public access way.
Right.
we can see
Yeah,
that's
there's kids there and they were concerned about strangers coming up. Also, one of the neighbors, they may be in the future moving, and they don't know, you can't depend on new people moving in who would agree to that necessarily. Plus, it's just not accessible for everybody. It's just
Yeah.
really not usable in winter, and bicycles.
And I
are
do
hard.
think you have a good point that if it were to be a public access way, I mean, it would really, the town would have to get an easement, and the residents that live there now would have to be known as it's a public walk path. And if you bought a property on either side, it would have to be with knowledge that, this is a public path that goes down to the park and that would lead over eventually to Knowles View Drive and then up to Orchard Park and over to, but it's a good cause, and it may be some of the neighbors will grant access to some of their neighbors, and it does avoid the risk of kind of have to go up and negotiate the traffic loop on River Road to get access to the bike path, but that's just another step that we'll have to work on.
Yeah,
with
it's
the
a
county.
short-term solution, but not a permanent
Yes.
solution, for sure.
Yes.
So I guess we just wanted to know what our next steps should be besides contacting Schenectady County regarding where they're at with, if they have any plans for the traffic circle study.
I did talk to them about that, and they did withdraw those plans and didn't really come to a final agreement. So at this time, they are not moving forward with submitting a traffic circle.
Interesting. Well, I guess the only other thing would be something simple like signage on the circle. There's really minimal signage on that circle.
Yeah.
And I've gone around every circle in the Capital District, and there's far better signage on those circles than there is on that particular, on the GE circle. It's really amazing how little signage there is.
Well, I think your correspondence really would be, again, addressed to our county legislative representatives, and then Paul Sheldon, who's the Director of Public Works for the county. And, you're a near neighbor resident, and you see the traffic on the traffic circle. And, that's certainly one. I think the neighbors could certainly say that, we are still very much interested in a study of the traffic circle. And that also you would like them to revisit the signage. And even if you just mention other traffic circles in the Capital District or that you're familiar with, and you'd like them, I think that's certainly something they would consider, is to take a look at the signage that's there. And
Oh, go ahead.
anyone else, do we have any other thoughts
Yes. Yeah.
that we would want to share with
Um,
Dr. Miller and the residents concerning,
are you able to
well-
share that with us too, or do
Oh,
you want
yeah,
to
no,
send
this
it
is
to
for
us?
you.
I think that one is for us.
And
Okay.
actually, there's
So can-
it's duplicate
It
because
is,
some
okay,
had-
so I can scan it and share it with the complete street.
yeah, some of the people hand wrote it. So
Okay.
yeah, so you'll see doubles. Yeah, absolutely.
We talked about this before, but the town board did formally accept the easement on Van Antwerp at the last town board meeting for a multi-use path. So,
So what does that mean?
that means I don't, know if the house that Betsy Ryan lives in, that one now has an easement. So it just makes it easier if we're ever able to get a multi-use path. We have an easement across that property now.
Interesting, because I had spoken to Joanne, which is the
Her daughter,
daughter,
yeah. mhm.
and I don't know if they're not home or what, because I sent her an email and I went and walked and put it in her mailbox, and I haven't been able to contact her.
Well,
So,
um.
because I thought she
you have
was interested.
Because we have an easement there.
Yeah, she had told me that, but I just wanted to know. Yeah.
Yeah, that
Okay.
was formally accepted at the last town board meeting.
so what, can you tell us where this is, Laura? What easement, what house, or,
Properties between, the GE traffic circle and Knox Street East that had a minor subdivision, like, you know how we have two minor subdivisions that we're looking at today? It's been a while. I think the Complete Streets actually made a recommendation on it maybe 3 years ago, but when it was being subdivided, the Complete Streets asked for a multi-use path easement at the front of the property in case we were ever able to get a multi-use path from Knox Street East to the traffic circle. And it took a long time, but the last step of the process was at the last town board meeting, and it was finished and recorded.
So is this one house, or is that stretch between Knott Street East and the circle where there aren't houses that abut?
One vacant property. Like if you come up Alva, there's a house right there, and then there's a big forest right next to it. The forest and that house now have a multi-use path easement for the town.
Okay, and this is on the west side of,
West side,
Yeah, the side where we would put a path.
the west side,
Yeah.
yeah.
so it's really 4 or 5 more homes between this and the traffic circle that we'd have to get permission from homeowners to do a side path, or 3 or 4?
Let's see.
Four, but the fourth is on the other side of
On
things
the other
now.
side of it.
Yeah, yeah.
No, well, no, there's Ryan's property,
yeah.
and then there's a house next to the forest,
That's true. That one doesn't have an easement.
right?
Yeah. So 4.
Right.
Yeah. So 4.
Four. Four. And some of the people don't, I don't believe they speak English in one of the houses, so I don't know if they understand. Would have to.
So, I mean, this is kind of a big step all by itself, isn't it? It's a step to work from, to talk to these other property owners. And I mean, the county has said, well, one of the obstacles with county roads is that we don't have a wide right of way, and that you have to work on property acquisition or be granted an easement by homeowners to do a side path on Van Antwerp Road that would allow residents to use that side path to get from, the traffic circle down to Knott Street East, where they could start using the side path on Knott Street East to get to, the town hall and the library and other locations around downtown Niskuna, I guess. And so, I think it's a positive myself and something to work off of.
That section is the easier section. I think the section south of that,
It's
It's-
harder.
it's
The one
hard.
Jessica's
the
gonna
one
recommend, I
that
agree.
is harder because.
Yeah.
Hills and
Curves,
curves.
yeah. Although there is some sidewalk already between
Yeah.
CVS and
And the
the
Antwerp Village.
apartment complex, but
And I saw that the telephone poles don't make any difference. I mean,
yeah,
they have the pathway, the telephone poles are right in the pathway. So I thought that was gonna be a problem, but it's already done,
yes, CV. It's not great when it gets done like that, but sometimes
right?
it,
Well,
it happens.
yeah. So, I don't think.
Yeah, they just put the
poles.
sidewalk right around the
Around the
pole
poles.
by CVS.
Yeah. I've been checking these things,
Yes, they do. That one.
so.
Not a best practice, but it does work.
So, okay,
Well-
so I write these people in Schenectady, and we understand that this is a marathon, not a sprint.
Mhm.
So everybody understands that, but we figure we need to start somewhere.
Yes, and this is a good start because as we've learned from doing our town comprehensive plan, that we do have 18 county roads, 23 miles of county roads, and most of them do not have a side path by them. And we understand that they're connecting roads, and we need to get side paths on them for folks to be able to walk and bike around Niskuna. And this is kind of at the beginning step, which when we had our meeting with Paul Sheldon and Rory Fluman, the county manager, I mean, they noted that, but we said this is going to be important to our bike and pedestrian movement in the town, and it's a first couple of roads, and how we figure out how to do this will probably be a little precedent setting on how we would do it for other county roads. And it's just good to learn that we I believe, have our county legislative reps that are supportive of trying to work on solutions. In other words, they don't have a lot of money to start doing this process, but if they're open to looking at ways to develop side paths on county roads that will facilitate pedestrian and bike movement, that's good. And I think they are there. So it's starting to look for solutions, look for grant money. And so it's not like you're, coming mid-game where there's side paths on half the county roads. There's side paths really on relatively few of them. And so the folks on Crimson Oak Court and Jessica Krakowski and others going the other way to get down to CVS are kind of first helping us cut the ground the first time. And hopefully we'll have good positive discussions with the county so that as obstacles come along or as we look for solutions to easements or grant money or whatever, that we'll be able to find them. So
Yeah, I'd like to invite them to come take a walk down Van Antwerp.
You can.
I mean, I'm just putting, in the mailboxes and going to people's doors is really
Little iffy.
scary,
Yes.
really scary. So I thank
okay,
you.
anyone else like to say anything to Dr. Miller, who lives on Crimson Oak Court, or anything else on, I guess, working with our county legislative reps to get us started on?
Doing all this hard work. This is great.
Yeah.
So I'll scan this and share it with the complete streets, and then
Great.
let us know if you get a meeting scheduled with the county or with the
Okay.
responses, and then hopefully we could come to you and just be an advocate and continue to help.
Okay. Thank you very much. We appreciate your time and helping us
No, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
here.
Okay. The next item is the draft comprehensive plan, and we lost Catherine temporarily.
Sorry, it's very loud in the hallway for some reason. Go ahead.
So I would invite, I know Catherine and Carla have both been working away on the plan, and
Oh, did you do the minutes, Bill? I didn't hear the minutes.
oh, no, I'm sorry, I didn't do the minutes. I'm sorry, forgive me. The minutes for May 20 were distributed, and does anyone have a question or a comment on anything that they would like to note for our May 20 minutes? If not, I would like to move acceptance of the May 20 minutes, and I'm looking for a second. Catherine Kuzman, first with a second. So we've been moved and second for our May 20 minutes. And all those in favor, please raise your hand. All here are unanimous. So thank you on those. Okay, again, to the transportation, to our mobility and transportation chapter of the comp plan. I guess I would recognize Carla Dougal or Catherine Kuzman if they'd like to say a few words about where we're at working on that. And I guess that we're going to jump on Chapman to get him to turn in his stuff. And I will be back in town tomorrow night. So
Bill, I was going to say that, Bill, I was going to say that I can continue working on updates to your chapter, your section, to include the comments from the other members, and then just hand it off to you, and you can then do whatever you want with it at that point. Okay. Sure. So I'll probably, maybe in the next week or so, I'll have the introduction, the mobility section, and the safety section kind of cleaned up and incorporating all the other comments. And then I'll hand it off to you, and Carla is working on her section. So we don't need to have a draft until September, but I thought, well, you know, we should have it kind of cleaned up by the end of August, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, I've done some edits based on Andrew's and Jim's comments, and I've also made some changes of my own to the connectivity section, and also been thinking about, you know, how to lay out the recommendation section as well. But I will meet at some point
I think we should meet in August if everyone's back at some point and talk
Yes.
about that section.
Okay.
Yes.
The only other thing that I got feedback from maybe after the meeting with the comprehensive plan committee is to, if there was unresolved recommendations for the cars, like for the timing of the Balltown Road lights and stuff like that, that could still help, we should keep those in for consistency with the last plan and because Complete Streets also should be helping cars. So I don't mind if I, coming with you guys to the August meeting and reviewing the old transportation chapter, but a lot of the recommendations were completed, but if there's any kind of lingering, the one that stands out to me is the timing of the Balltown road lights. Because
Yeah, we still, I mean, when you travel and you're getting off of Route 7 and going north on Balltown Road, I mean, the cars, really in both directions coming over on Balltown or turning left from Route 7, they tend to still camp out in the intersection, even though the lights turn red. And so often the east-west traffic on Balltown Road doesn't get a go because other motorists, many of them whom I think know, well, this light's going to change before I can get through because it's plugged up on going north on Balltown Road, but they still pull into the intersection, which is really kind of quite frustrating because it's your turn to go, but there are other cars in the intersection. And I think that's something that
and I
needs
actually
some
think that observation is in the old plan.
Okay.
And so like that still happened. So we can put that up, we can carry that observation forward. I'm actually not sure what a typical treatment is to fix that. But I mean, it definitely is a problem. So we can still put, the old chapter was very car centric and really didn't have hardly any Complete Streets recommendations, just a little bit. So I like the way that we went with it, but we should still pull out some of the old stuff that hasn't been accomplished yet, if it's still useful, and put it in the new one.
So should we have just a short note if, say, some work has been done on an intersection, say the roundabout in front of the Rexford Bridge or whatever, that this was an issue in the earlier plan and it's been resolved or attention's been paid to it?
So
Certainly.
In there, the one thing that we may want to note, which I can get you guys the data, or maybe we already have it, is interestingly though, that traffic circle has way higher accidents than most traffic circles. So we could, if we were following up with the old one, say that got changed to a traffic circle, it has helped with traffic. But there may be something funny about, I think the highest accidents come from people from Aqueduct Road just don't seem to realize that they yield to cars in the circle because maybe it looks too straight to them or something. I think like 70% of the accidents in that circle are people from Aqueduct Road hitting people who are already in the circle. So it's a higher than normal car accident area.
So could that be a public education recommendation to the chief of police or even just to the town that a new problem has arisen? I mean, one, it moves faster, but we now have more accidents. But
Yeah, I think I have a police report on it. If you talk to Jordan, he'll tell you. The police are generally speaking highly in favor of traffic circles. We've pretty much won them over, but that one they do not like. And it may be in the future when the DOT is relooking at stuff that they have to change the entrance of Aqueduct Road onto that traffic circle or something like that. It'd be worth just if we were pulling some of those old recommendations forward. Most of every of our other traffic circles were great, but that one is a little bit problematic for whatever reason.
But they're not T-bone accidents. They're kind of side swipes, I would
They
imagine.
But they have had some more serious ones than you would think. It's pretty unusual
For
for a traffic circle, and it has. If you ask them, this is I've heard them say it a couple times. Seems to be problematic with the entrance of Aqueduct Road. Yeah. You guys aren't. I actually don't, because I live on off of Williams. And I have not usually had as much of a problem with Aqueduct Road as people coming over, like southbound on Balltown Road, over the bridge and not realizing to stop because there's so few cars that come from Williams. So that actual thing usually is what I worry about the most when I'm driving. But This weekend, a car on Aqueduct did not stop when I was in the circle.
Oh, jeez. Okay. That's not good.
It didn't hit me.
Well,
but it was-
I mean, the chief would say, I've got accident data, so there are more frequent accidents. We shouldn't ignore that. We at least need to acknowledge that and to say the state needs to look at it, or we need to do at least we know it's there and it needs some attention of some sort, either looking at the entrance from Aqueduct Road or public education or something. So
like 0 or 1 car accident on Rosendale and River. They love that traffic circle. They love that one. There's another one. They don't even, I don't think they, like this, the Crimson Court lady noted, they do not have a lot of accidents on Research Circle. They tend to be people not slowing down when it's icy and they slide off because of the way that the road tilts, but it's not a lot of scary accidents. Go ahead, Ben.
Okay.
I commute through that way because I go north to Burn Hills. I'm actually opposite of the GE traffic, so I get kind of an interesting perspective. You're totally right. I agree that it seems like the traffic that comes across the bridge and is going to then head up the hill is where we have an issue. I think that it's that direction with Aqueduct right there. Sorry, I'm like backwards here with the camera. But the other thing I notice is, so if you're in the right lane coming off the bridge and you're going to go up the hill, most people tend to assume that you're not going to go up the hill if you're in the right lane. They think you're going to dip into Schenectady and go down Aqueduct Road. And so you get people who mistakenly think that and they jump out, or you'll get people who are just rude and really don't care. Like that happens a lot. People who just cut across Aqueduct Road because they're sick of waiting. And so I think maybe if there was some signage, or maybe it was like only certain, like, I don't know if it was a 1 lane from Aqueduct. I mean, it's hard to narrow it down to 1 lane, but I think that's why the new one on River Road that they put in is so good, because it's 1 lane. That's why there's no accidents.
Yes, I agree with you. The second, or sort of the inside lane when you're coming off the bridge, can zip down Aqueduct, and a lot of people do, and then they don't pay attention to what the cars are doing on the circles, or the cars on the outside lane kind of don't pay attention. Yeah, it's a mess. That is also a problem part of it.
So
Well,
I
let me
wonder,
ask,
I wonder if maybe signage, like a high, like a yield, like a really, really obvious, you must yield to oncoming traffic, before merging, use real, I don't know. Like, I don't know what the highway department, if they have solutions like that.
Yeah,
But
could we ask the state to take a look at it? It's on a state road. Could we
Yeah.
ask New York State to just come
They're
out and
probably monitoring it. My guess is that their data easily shows that one has more accidents than most of their other ones, like 146 and 146A, for example, is a 2-lane traffic circle and does not have the same problems to my knowledge. So,
another
yeah,
thing,
but I do think we should probably say that it needs to be examined with maybe more signage or something.
well, another thing that you have going on here that's very unique is you have 3 45-mile-an-hour roads that meet with 2 lanes in each direction with no slowdown, no warning, really. So I'm pretty sure that's what the chief of police, will say immediately, is that you have 2 downhill directions of travel coming at this circle. Often people are going 55. It's very, very, it's like a highway. Like once they hit the bridge, they take off.
yeah, really all 3. It's Balltown coming northbound and traffic coming off of Aqueduct, and really traffic coming the other direction on Balltown. They all 3 kind of take a dip down to the circle, and they are all higher speed limit. And I think it's true of all 3 of them. It's a good point, Ben.
Yeah, it's I mean, I think we want to be careful. We're very supportive of traffic circles, but there is something really weird about that one, and it gets a lot more accidents than any of the other ones I've ever seen.
Right. I mean, I don't know how closely the New Scieno police monitor that one.
They do.
They do.
Yeah,
Okay.
they do.
Okay. So that would make sense. But you can't have someone there 24/7. So
Yeah.
there's something else has to be done. Okay.
I've even seen them. They'll park in that little parking lot that's on the side
Okay.
sometimes, and I'm not exactly sure what they're overdoing, but I'm assuming they must be watching the traffic or maybe trying to slow it down with their presence. But it's hard for them to be in the circle because
Right, you can't,
you can't.
you can't, all right.
Yeah.
Okay.
What's the difference in traffic between that circle and the one over by River Road, Rosendale? Like in terms of cars per day or?
Heat is part of it.
It's probably at least double the volume, but Catherine just said speed is probably a big part of it, and I agree. Yeah.
Okay.
A much slower speed that they're going at that particular traffic circle.
Hmm.
Around.
It is interesting too because the Clifton Park side is patrolled by the New York State Police because Clifton Park doesn't have its own police force. So occasionally there's a police car that's in the yacht club, but most of the time that's a free for all. And the cars drive like Ben, you probably see this every day you're coming home. They drive like 50, 60 miles an hour from Stewart's down over the bridge. I have to be in the in the lane that's next to the double yellow line because that's where I have to be in order to get to my house. And I typically drive like 45 to 50 miles an hour, and the cars look around me because I'm going too slow when I'm going down that hill. Because I'm like in the fast lane, but I have to be because that's the lane that goes 3/4 of the way around the circle.
Well, I mean, is it possible that we could, even in the short run, identify some of these issues that we see and really just have the town supervisor send a note to the state DOT saying, we have data on more accidents. Would you please take a look at this traffic circle and, see the things we see? And if the state DOT has got some solutions that have worked elsewhere to look at what they can do. And I don't think we should wait.
Yeah. The one nice thing about that is that the multi-use path along that road works great. It's divided by a thing that could probably an 18-wheeler could hit it and it wouldn't budge. So the multi-use path there works great. It's actually harder for the cars, I think. Yeah.
Okay. Anything more? Go ahead, Carla.
I had a question, this is something different, but Laura, you sent out that scope of work for the linkage study. And
Yeah.
In it, it said that to the consultant, when they start the work, they're going to need like the updates to the comp plan. So when are they starting the work for that?
They are not this is going to be on the street for at least a month. And then it probably takes a couple more weeks to sign it and get it ready to go.
Okay.
So I think it's still at least 2 or 3 months.
Okay. But all the updates to the comp plan should be finalized, or?
No, I think it'd be okay to show them the drafts. They'll get an idea of what's happening with the comprehensive plan through our drafts.
Okay.
And through just the general data and stuff that we're sharing with them.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Unless there's more on the Rexford Bridge, Turner Roundabout. We talked about Balltown Road and Knott Street, and a lot of residents have asked, well, can we get a left turn lane there for traffic eastbound on Knott that wants to go north on Balltown Road? And I guess we've learned with the examination of the Knott Street co-op block that they've looked at it. They've decided not to do anything at this point, but can we still at least acknowledge that, the next time they look at this intersection or plan on doing work there, that our sentiment is still, we believe that a left turn lane is warranted there. So really people can go across Balltown Road without having to wait for left turn cars that want to go northbound on Balltown Road. So, it's still an issue, I think, worth a mention.
I think that gets back to the original, the 2013 chapter. I think that may be a recommendation from the 2013 chapter that still hasn't been implemented. Yeah,
it is.
So
we should just carry it forward, right?
Carry forward, yeah.
Okay.
Yep. Yeah.
Okay.
Because they mostly just have car recommendations, but if they're still valid, then we should carry them forward.
Okay.
Is there anything that can be at least considered about maybe extending the light timing during rush hour? Because trying to get across Balltown during rush hour is really, really hard if you're on Knott Street. Just because it is because of the left turn, it's because of people who are waiting to take the left turn, and it's fine. Like I get it, but it's almost like if the light could just go a little longer at certain times.
Yeah,
know.
it's very strange. Like I know they originally had a plan that showed the left lane, and then they decided they couldn't fit it, so they took it out. And I know that we also talked to him about, like, why don't you just make the straight one the left turn lane, and then have the other one be a straight and right. But I think maybe the reason they don't do that is because the alignment with the cross section, it may be hard to see the oncoming cars in that way because they'd sort of bump out and then come back into the intersection. But there's definitely the left turn from Knott Street East north onto Balltown Road is really challenging. Yeah. I think we should definitely continue to bring that up with them.
Okay.
And we do have a person, Ben, that we talk to about the timing of the lights. They do review it occasionally. I don't know if you guys noticed, but when it was originally installed, it only released Balltown Road for a very short amount of time, and then it would actually go back to Knott Street. And now it's problematic for Balltown Road, but maybe they pushed it a little too far in the other direction. So it is, we can have dialogues with them about the timing of the lights. We have had before.
Laura, do you know if it's tied to?
You froze up, Jim.
Froze. Still frozen, Jim.
Hmm.
Well, we can come back to Jim when he's back back in business, I guess. So okay.
Yeah, but if you guys ever want, or Ben, you're interested, like, you could come by and we can call the DOT traffic light. They're responsive to the town planning and the town highway department, so they do look at it. They don't always agree with us though.
And just, we are encouraged that the county is planning to do Old River Road and Rosendale Road, kind of down by the train station park. I mean, that intersection is part of their work for really this year, isn't it? I mean, they're doing the design work for this, and we did ask Paul Sheldon and Rory Fluman about the possibility of a side path that would go from Niskayuna Road down to the entrance to the train station park, and they said, we're tight budget, we don't have any money to do that, but we're not opposed to the idea. They thought it was a good idea, but they couldn't put it in the project that they're doing right now. And I don't know, is that something? I guess it is an intersection, something we're still supportive of, but I guess on the search for money to figure out how to do it. But
No, I mean, I feel like Carla said she's going to look at the recommendations, but that could be another thing. Like, we understand that there's a future traffic circle coming to this intersection. It's a challenging intersection though for any type of biker or walker. So we definitely recommend the alternate route on Niskayuna Road
yes.
to be built. That intersection also has a high level of accidents that are dangerous
Yes.
in our town. Yeah.
Yeah. Do we have that data, or is that something is that the reason they're taking the step of doing the traffic circle there?
They don't have the high profile fatalities, but I believe they've had at least 2 there in the last 10 years.
Well, I do think support is there if they're saying we don't have space for a sidewalk to get from Troy Road down to Old River Road there. So we're not making that a pedestrian access way. The county's basically saying we assume Niskayuna Road is going to be the pedestrian and bike path for people to get over from Troy Road down to, say, the train station park. But if that's their recommendation, then I think that adds a little bit more emphasis to our recommendation for a side path that would go from Niskuna Road down to the entrance to the train station park. So I think we
Yeah.
should say that, I guess.
Yeah, yeah. I
Well,
think part of their figuring is that the shoulder and the accommodations for bicycles and walkers are so scary from Old River Road up to, Route 7 that nobody really bicycles there anyway. But,
well, I
some
would like to
people-
ask committee members, and help with the mobility and transportation plan that if they would at least look to, I mean, I think there are about 10 intersections that were looked at in the 2013 plan that, what are ones that we feel are resolved, and so we don't need to talk
Yeah,
about them
exactly.
again. And then
Yeah.
what we might want to say about the ones that are still there. And
Right,
as
go
people
back
look
to
at
that.
that, if there's
Totally.
another one that's crept up, we should pay attention. That's an intersection that we want to make some recommendations on to help cars move more smoothly through. I mean, it's not just a matter of looking at the, say, 10 that were there before, and 5 have been reconciled and 5 haven't. So, but if there's a new one that comes along or is present, then we could talk about that.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's all I had to say about that. I got that comment, I think, after that meeting from 2 comprehensive plan committee members. So I forgot to bring it up to you guys, but yeah.
Anything else on the mobility and transportation chapter before we leave that item? Anyone? If not, let's move on to safety on Route 7. And Laura did send us a write-up by Chaim, let's see, last name, James Simon. And it's fair to say that this is a scope of work which represents what would be done in the linkage study that's being done on Route 7. And they've shared this document that I believe is a design for the plan, I guess, for the linkage study. And Chaim is asking Niskuna for your input on the town's input, and wants everyone to give it a read over, scope of work. And that, when we're done, it's going to go to New York State DOT, CDTA, and Capital District Regional Planning Council for their review. And highlighted a few areas that he wanted us to look at, which again, name of the study, previous planning work. Let me know if there are other documents I should add, and I have a couple to suggest. And then existing condition responsibilities. They've got that table, so it's what they're going to do. And then, if we have something we'd want to add to that. And then task 4C, outline of things that we would like addressed in the plan. Please suggest additions or changes that you would like to see in the plan. This is the most important part to review and will give the consultant an idea of the type of study we are looking for. So I don't know if other members of the committee have already done comments kind of over to the side and sent those to Laura. I have 2 or 3 ideas that I wanted to pass along today, unless Laura says, Bill, write them up and send them to me. That could happen too. But we could just do a walkthrough on this and offer a few things, or what would be best, Laura, do you think?
I can do a walkthrough. I can tell you, I just wanted to make sure that, we were being responsive to them. So I did my own comments and send them, but we can still send, I didn't receive comments from anyone.
Yeah.
So I did make some of my own, which I can share with you guys, and then we can add any more that we wanted to. I've actually already done 2 rounds with them so far. And I can just tell you, for the study background, I wanted to make sure that it wasn't lost that we've been having a lot of car accidents and speeding issues and the fatalities. So we did add the fatalities into the study background.
And serious injuries.
And serious injuries. Yeah, that was added into the study background. Not the number, just the concern of speeding and fatalities. Um, and
The last sentence in that paragraph, study background, it says retrofitting it will reinvigorate the corridor and boost the unique character of Niskayuna, helping to attract and maintain businesses in eastern Schenectady County. I mean, they stop there. And of course, in our earlier plans, we want Troy Road to stay a residential street. The focus is not necessarily businesses in Niskayuna. It may be a business transit, but that last sentence in study background that's kind of on the first, I would add, and to further develop safe bike and pedestrian access in the town. In other words, it's not just maintaining businesses in eastern Schenectady County, comma, and to further develop safe bike and pedestrian access in the town. So it's not just
Yeah.
about moving cars for business, it's about walkers and bikers.
yeah, I'll pull it up. I'd say send that one to me, but that seems fine to me. The
Okay.
more you can emphasize that, the better.
Then on the first page, study purpose, I'd say it says the town of Niskayuna and the Complete Streets Committee have identified safety measures for Route 7. So if we go down a little bit, unless you want to add things as we go, but
I'm just trying to make it bigger. Hold on. I'm thinking about my computer. Carry on.
okay. So second sentence in study purpose, again, town of Niskayuna and the Complete Streets Committee have identified safety measures for Route 7 and crosswalks as a priority. Then it also, in that paragraph, it's got under study purpose, I mean, do you want me to, where it says retrofitting? I mean, did you get my comment or we want to do that one?
You want me to add it in here?
Yeah, so comma right there. And to-
Retrofitting it will reinvigorate the corridor and boost the unique character of Niskayuna, helping to attract and maintain business in eastern Schenectady County
and to further develop safe bike and pedestrian access in the town. Okay. Then under study purpose, second sentence in that section, yeah, town of Niskayuna, well, you have it there, and their Complete Streets Committee identified. Okay, so that looks good. And the 40-45, I had that also, so. Then where we get to summary of previous planning work. We have the Niskayuna Comprehensive Plan, but can we also include, I mean, I have 3 suggestions. Complete streets goals for 2024. Then complete streets bike and pedestrian movement plan. I mean, I'd like them to see our big map. Happy to give them a copy, but we should say, I mean, we have done a lot of work to develop the, as Jim Levy would say, the non-motorized movement plan, or the Niskayuna safe streets plan for, I mean, I think that almost the map should just be a separate item of itself, the Niskayuna Safe Routes Bike and Pedestrian Movement Plan. Then I also would like to recommend that priority letters for the last year, the last 2 years, our priority letters to state, county, school in the town of Niskuna for the last 2 years. And I mean, I don't know, I would say the priority letters could be a separate item all of its own too, but your call. And the next is a question, project website. It says, if we go down a bit, it says a plain language summary of relevant portions of previous planning documents efforts. I mean, is that examples of what's been done that they're expecting from the town, or pictures of what's been done, or is that asking for concrete examples, or?
That's something the consultant would provide to the committee prior to the preliminary meeting. So they would provide a plain language summary of all the documents that are listed above.
Typically, Bill, that's a paragraph or two of each of the documents that summarize the findings of each of the relevant ones. It doesn't go into a ton of detail, it just kind of summarizes which one are relevant and why.
So you're just pulling
so-
the stuff out of each one of those plans and kind of making it relevant to the Route 7 study directly.
Okay. Then the third item or fourth item, educational webpage defining complete streets showing completed examples. I mean, are they expecting the Complete Streets Committee to give them examples of positive things that have happened in the town over the last 10 years or 5 years?
Nope. That's
Nope.
that's gonna be Jim can jump in here too. That's gonna
What
be
does
their
that
gen-
sentence mean? I guess I'm wondering.
Yeah, that's their general complete streets guide that they use. So they would have links and stuff to it explaining the complete streets
But
standard.
all of this is going to have to be done by the consultant, Bill. They may
Yeah.
ask for input, help, but this
Okay.
is all consultant work. The entire scope is really consultant work. They're just going to look for input and assistance, local input on thoughts on what they're doing. But the vast majority of the work, I'd say 98% of the work falls on the consultant. They're not going to necessarily ask us to dig out data and things like that. That's on them.
Okay. If we go down a bit, it's kind of the same question, down a little bit, Laura, to with this following the study, we go down a little bit more memo. Oh yeah, public involvement plan. Oh no, let's go up again. It's kind of the same question. Representative input. Can we go up a little bit more? Yeah. When it says collecting constructive and representative public input, yeah, it says the consultant is encouraged to suggest alternative or innovative approaches to collecting constructive and representative public input. Well, again, is that just examples from other cities? It's not like specific to Niskuna of what's already been done, right? It's
Right.
what's happened in
Yeah,
other communities.
Things that the consultant has seen work to get more, comments. Like, for instance, you didn't have to identify where you lived on the comprehensive plan committee survey. So there's theoretically possibly slightly more responses. But I think of the people that identified where they lived, I think we had 2 responses out of 500 for people that lived on Route 7. So, I mean, clearly Google, SurveyMonkey surveys, it didn't seem to reach a whole lot of people that live on Route 7. So what's a better way to reach out to them and start to get their input on the road that they live on? Yeah.
Okay.
And, the Complete Streets Committee actually had a meeting. Comprehensive Plan Committee had a meeting at Fire Station 2 and mailed out postcards to try and get people on Route 7 to come. And that also did not work. So I'm fully open to innovative and approaches to getting people to come and talk to us.
Okay.
And again, you know, that's on the consultant. This whole scope is for the consultant to put together their ideas and submit that information back to the MPO and the town for consideration.
Okay.
Maybe the farmers.
My next one is not till further down, so if anybody else has got stuff as we go along, want to suggest it?
Read this a couple times. I like the very intentional way of trying to include lots of people in the plan. I like, that the consultant has to do a lot of information and send it to the committee like a week or 2 weeks ahead of everybody meeting, which gives them time to digest the new data.
Actually,
It's
before we leave
probably-
that, Laura, can I ask how is the consultant, or how are we supposed to find, well, necessarily the bus riders, but people of color or low wage earners? How do we know who those folks are?
Yeah.
Households without a personal vehicle, people with a disability, people
Professional
over 65, or
capability.
people primary language not
Yeah,
English.
Bill, the consultant has that capability. They're responding to this saying that we will find that underserved population and figure out a way to invite them. That's not a complete streets committee necessarily strong point. We're good at some things, but this is not a scope of work for us. This
Okay,
is a scope of work for the consultant, and that will be their job to bring those people to the table wherever they can.
so they have technologies or some background methods to get information from these folks, get input from these folks, or,
Hi. Yes, yep, that's their job.
okay.
Yep.
So Jim Levy, would you agree they've got ways to find these folks and get input from them, or,
There are ways to go about trying to identify those individuals or households and get in touch with them, but there's no guarantee you're going to get them out to a meeting or something. That, you know, there are multiple steps, but that again is on the consultant to figure out how they can best do that.
so the consultant's not going to ask us as co-workers or co-supporters of the linkage study that, hey, I'm having trouble finding these folks. Do you have some ideas or something to suggest to do that? Or,
They'll ask for local input, but it's still on the consultant to make all that happen. So they might ask for input on that. I mean, there are a number of ways you can go about doing it. I think Route 7 corridor is actually a little tricky, kind of doing some of that stuff, just given the corridor and the fact that it's all single family residential homes. But again, that's going to be on the consultant and others to figure out. But they will definitely be asking for input from the town. I mean, all of this has input from the town. Everything they do, will come through one way or another.
And it's important that they're intentional about trying to include people that it's hard to get included. So, I mean, like Jim said, you're not always successful, but Cedar, TC, and federal highways, and I think New York State DOT too, have a lot of rules because it's hard to get underserved populations to come, like to not just be like, oh, well, they didn't respond. So yeah,
well, that's
they
my
definitely
worry.
have to be very intentional about it to try.
Okay.
The one thing I thought that we needed to make sure was included, we worked very hard on it. It's got a lot of really good data, was they didn't have our ADA transition plan because we actually surveyed the sidewalks on New York, Route 7. So we added that document in there.
Did you do that through the MPO, Laura, or was that done by the town individually?
It was done by the town individually. We had a very motivated planning student from Binghamton. I can't remember what college he was from actually. That spent a summer measuring all the sidewalks and putting the plan together with the help of CRTC.
Oh, yeah, that's great. I know CRTC has been doing a lot of ADA transition plan work, but that's great.
No, with that one. Carrie helped the intern a lot. Carrie Ward helped my intern quite a bit. But pretty much put it together entirely himself. And then went on to I think a 2-year master's planning degree at Cornell, and now he's a planner down in the Southern Tier. He did our ADA transition plan.
Could we jump down to task 4?
Yes.
Develop draft Niskanen plan.
And Bill,
I,
I'm just going to, because I have had discussions with CRTC about this. It needs to be general, that we can be
Okay.
more specific when we're meeting with them.
Okay, my general, which I think are, I hope they're not too much. I mean, one is just where they say up to 3 conceptual designs for the corridors, including representative typical cross sections. I mean, is that a cross section of the road, or is that 3 different conceptual models or something like that when they're saying including representative typical cross sections? I mean, what do they mean by that?
I think that's pretty standard. Conceptual designs are going to be usually kind of color renderings. For instance, if a planted median with trees makes a lot of sense on Route 7, some kind of a narrowing of the lanes road diet with some additional landscaping, the conceptual design would be like overlaid across the entire corridor, and then you'd have a typical cross section of what that would look like.
Okay.
Say the medians don't really work great. In a perfect world, say you don't actually need 2 lanes in either direction and one of them becomes a bike lane, something like that. Very unlikely that would be a typical treatment from 7, but that's what they would be looking at, something like that.
The other thing I have here, which is kind of, we have concerns about Troy Road, and so I guess what are the bicycle options? How are people? I mean, I would like to say we need input on how are people riding bicycles to get across Troy Road from the Colony line to the city of Schenectady. I mean, that's something we need to understand how that's supposed to happen. And so I think that should be a specific that we want to know what's going to happen. Are they bicyclists going to go on the sidewalk? Is there going to be a design aspect for bicycles? Is there going to be a design aspect for pedestrians to cross the streets? I mean, it seems like pedestrians getting across the street and bicycles going east and west on Troy Road. I mean, are we going to just use the sidewalk, or is that going to be a specific work item that we would like to get the answer to as part of this linkage study?
Yeah, so the name of the study is Complete Streets, and the goals are Complete Streets review of Route 7. And the multimodal planning level operational analysis is, I think, where they're going to look at bicycles and what their needs are, and walkers and transit riders and how they're crossing the street.
But can we have a sentence in here that says that, so that it's clear to all of us and the public that, we want them to look at pedestrians crossing the street, pedestrians going east and west on Troy Road, and bicyclists going east and west on Troy Road? I mean, are they?
So Bill, I feel like that's included in here, and I feel comfortable with the language as analyzing the bicycle and the sidewalks, but you can certainly send me a bullet point that's more explicit, and I can send it to CRTC if they want to add it in.
Okay.
I mean, I don't know if they want to have repetition in here or not. I think it's covered, but you can send me a bullet point and I can send it to them.
But I think you have a good point that from a complete streets perspective, you'd say, oh, Bill, that's covered with the more general language, but a citizen maybe reading it that not that familiar with complete streets would say, Laura, geez, how are pedestrians supposed to get across Troy Road, which is a problem, and how are bicycles supposed to get up? I don't see that in here somewhere. And so, but I can take your recommendation to do that.
Outreach material for citizens, that's going to be created. But if a citizen reads this and doesn't understand it, I mean, that's okay. They're not going to be bidding on the project. Like, we're going to create materials and documents to the citizens that are understandable. This document is very specific to planning consultants who do and should or will not be awarded understand the concepts that we're going for.
Right. This will be your outline for the plan itself. And Laura, this ties into 2 comments, and I'll just shoot you an email on them. Just, I think, an extra couple words in the background and the purpose, just talking about, because I think it is kind of linear focused in a way, but just talking about those cross movements. And I'll shoot you just a little bit of text. It's just a couple words, just ensuring that we are looking at that, cross Route 7 as well as along Route 7 movements. But otherwise, I think it is covered in the scope itself. That's to be understood as part of what's being written up here.
Yeah.
And this
I
is
mean,
intended
I
for the
think you're
consultants.
both
I mean,
fine.
you know, the town and the committee that's formed to do this plan will look at this as you go forward to make sure you're kind of checking the boxes and doing what's needed, but you'll kind of reformulate all this as the plan is kind of started and the consultant comes in and talks with
Yeah,
you.
and just, you know, like, just think when they do their meetings, when we do our meetings, we're gonna have Complete Streets representatives there. There's gonna be people who live on the town that are, you know, along the road that are saying, I can't cross the road. I can't bicycle with my child. And those are all comments that will have to be addressed by the plan. And that, you know, so this is the general level for the consultant, and then it doesn't prevent Complete Streets from giving the consultant a whole list of concerns and cross intersections. That'll all be part of the input that we do. So.
Right. Yep. Absolutely.
Finally, on task 7 that you have final presentation to town. Actually on B, study advisory committee meeting number 5, it kind of refers to meeting 4. I mean, when you go up to 5, it refers to 4 in the text. So see, B, study advisory committee number 5, and then the first sentence says meeting number 4. So should that 4 be a 5, or is that a conflict that's left over from somewhere?
That looks like a typo. I think it's a simple typo.
Yeah. Task 7, I mean, can the town board still recommend modifications? It says consultant in number 7 will work with town staff to arrange a meeting with the town of Niskayuna, or the town of Niskayuna board and our planning board to present the finalized New York 7 Complete Streets plan. I mean, when they say planning, are they just presenting the final, or if someone on the town board says, we'd like to see this? I mean, does the town board trump our input here if they say we want to add something, or?
They're supposed, like, their recommendation is to have a town board person on the advisory committee. But there isn't one particular individual that trumps, or organization that trumps any organization in a planning study. It's planning study.
Okay.
And it's finalized and put on the CRTC's website because it's federal highways money. Certainly I think the town should also put it on its own website, but it's not, it's not, it's in the town and the town is the sponsor, but it's not like, if the town doesn't agree with it, it's not going to be completed. Like it's a higher level study than just us. That's why the DOT is on there. That's why Schenectady County's on there.
Okay.
You know, federal.
I guess I'm
highways.
just, if you're sitting in the front row at a town board meeting and the town board members say, we want X or whatever, I mean, would you feel obligated to put X in the discussion because the town board members want to see it, or?
So this doesn't ever happen, but the town board will be invited to comment at many stages throughout this thing. And if they decide to have a very substantial comment at the final presentation, I couldn't guarantee that it would be included in the plan. They might try, but that's
By the time you
not,
get to
at
the
that
final
point, they need
presentation.
months and months of public comment.
The plan should be done. I mean, if there should be general agreement, everyone should understand it's the final plan at that point. It's not to say there couldn't be a tweak or two, but at the point that they do the final presentation, the plans should be done.
Okay.
For all intents and purposes.
Okay. That's all I have. Thank you. But certainly other members, please offer your thoughts. Or if you have, I mean, are you willing, Laura, for a couple days more to take written input from members of Complete Streets if they send them to you, or?
Yeah, no, I'd say send me what you have. Don't wait though, because
Yeah.
I think they've got a pretty tight timeline. So, I mean, you guys need to send this to me probably by the end of the day tomorrow, and I can tell them that I've got some more comments coming from them, but they're really about to release this. So,
That's fine.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you for sending it.
It'll be good, Bill. CRTC's done a lot of these. They know what they're doing. This will be a good process.
Okay, good. Okay, without further ado, anything, Well, anybody else want to say anything on this? Are we ready to move on? Can you want to say anything about Grand Boulevard? You have that on our agenda, Laura. Have we reconciled that the county has decided to dump a bike path on that road and put in parking spaces for residents of Grand Boulevard, on Grand Boulevard?
I don't know that I've reconciled, but I was told that that's what they're doing. I think we should continually push them for upgraded sidewalks or a multi-use path along Grand Boulevard if that's their choice, or a multi-use path through the boulevard of Grand Boulevard, and not continue to use the leverage that we have to, to get complete streets treatments on that street. I have continued to ask them for the plans. I sent him another email last week, because, apparently the plans also include painted bump outs at the intersections to potentially help with safety. I would love to see what the concept is for that. I still haven't been able to get him to give me the plans, but I'll keep trying. And once I get them, I will share them with you.
Okay, that would be good.
Have you still been doing your parking counts, Bill, or?
No, I have them for about 20 days, so for about a month of doing them. So I really feel like they would be representative of, I think it's maybe between 3 to 5 cars a day is what you find parked on Grand Boulevard, and that's at different times through the day. And I can continue doing that. I expect they'll look pretty much like they do now. And I share with Laura that the plan was called street improvement and bike access improvement. That was the purpose of the grant. And to just say, well, we may paint some sharrows on the road portion almost seems to me inconsistent with the idea of you're doing some things on the road to improve bike access, because there isn't any improvements for bike access. And if it's you're getting money out of a grant category by saying you're going to do that, in my mind, you actually have to do some things that do that. And also, I think it's maybe Catherine Kuzman who mentioned that, if you've got a nice Grand Boulevard, it's a beautiful road now. It's got the nice median in it. It's got green grass. It's got green trees that, maybe not that many people will park on Grand Boulevard, but it will certainly erode the kind of aesthetic view of the street if you now have cars parked on either side of the road. And with the traffic data that we've seen, with the counts of parked cars, a lot of times it's 1 or 2, 3 cars a day, 4 cars, 5 cars. Most people have long driveways or parking in the back of their houses. They don't need those parking spaces now. And so I just, and also I think the bike path it sort of gets us used to having one in Niskayuna so people know what it is. And we have 2 schools where Van Antwerp Middle School and Hillside Elementary, if we want residents to start using bikes to get around town, we need to have the safety measures there. It's good having an example of having bike paths on Grand Boulevard, and it's not a nick on parking. It's like they generally don't need the parking now. So why not do that? I'm just kind of surprised that the county has decided to bag the idea. And so, I'm all for reaching out to our county legislative reps more to make the case to do this. And
Yeah, every time I went through there and counted, it was like 0 to like 3, and some of the people were parked on the grass too.
I'm happy to share that table. I shared with Laura before. I'm happy to send it out to members to see what it was. So.
And then I think some of you were on the call last month, which was kind of an unofficial meeting. But we did summarize our meeting with the county. The county said if the town was willing to pass a resolution prohibiting parking on Grand Boulevard, they would be willing to change their design. And I had a draft resolution submitted to the town board for the removing of, at least a call for a public hearing for the removing of the parking on Grand Boulevard, but the town board is not they're not ready for it. They didn't want it to go forward on the town board level. It's a heavy lift for them, which is probably why the county pushed it onto the town.
Well, I mean, there are plenty of advocates for a bike path. I'm wondering, do we need to do some work to
Interestingly,
solicit
because-
input from those people and send that to the town board?
I have pushed very hard for this, and I have pushed the town board very hard for this. But and I told you guys, I even had a conversation with a resident on Grand Boulevard who was going to try and go neighbor to neighbor and start building support for me. Wonderful human being that I met on the natural resource inventory. And he started to try to push for this for me. And with his neighbors, when he started to have the conversation and told them that it would require no parking on Grand Boulevard, could not get support from his neighbors. And he
Okay.
thought he would be able to, and he couldn't.
Okay.
And
That's
I
what I've
also
heard before.
spoke to a planning board member who lives on Grand Boulevard, who also felt that a no parking on Grand Boulevard would be a non-starter. So there was a number of people who tried and may have even tried harder than me, but I tried pretty hard. And the no parking was really challenging for everyone. I said, okay, fallback position, at least don't stripe the parking lane. But it's really hard to say without seeing the plans. I can't really fully conceptualize, like maybe you kind of need the parking lane striped to work with the painted bump outs. I don't know. Like I really would love to see the plans from the county so that we could figure it out and then say, okay, well, right now the town board is not willing to do a no parking resolution and the county won't do the bike lane without the no parking resolution. So the fallback would be just don't stripe the parking and then maybe we come back to it, because we've said before, once you stripe the parking, then if you switch the striped parking for bike lane, you are removing parking, whereas right now the feeling isn't really that you're removing parking. I mean, it's still a really, really heavy lift, but at least you're
Okay.
not removing the striped
Yes.
parking, you know?
Okay. Anybody else have a thought before we leave this for today?
I would just support what Laura was saying. She heard when I was at the meeting that the county held, I heard a lot of people saying that they did not want to lose parking on Grant. So it's been a pretty consistent message I think we've heard across the board
Okay.
from residents.
But I feel like that it's our time then to leverage. This grant was supposed to provide for complete streets, and a Shero is not really considered a bike lane type treatment. Jim sent me some documentation that kind of explains the difference between a Shero and a bike lane and how it's treated on by NACTO. So, okay, county, like, do we or do we not stripe the parking, and then figure out a way to get a secondary grant or something to upgrade the sidewalks and or get a multi-use path out there. Like, if you really can't do the bike lane, then figure out something there, because the striped parking is not gonna, and a Shero is not gonna accommodate the type of bicycle people infrastructure that we need to really encourage children to be bike. I mean, I'm a mom. Like, if there was a striped bike lane, green paint, I know they don't like the green paint with the buffer, then I might be like, okay, Lily, go for it. But if it's literally they've striped the parking and they put a Shero in the middle of Grand Boulevard where cars drive 45 miles an hour when they're not supposed to, I shall not be sending my child down that road. I don't think
Okay.
I'm that different. It's not going to accommodate, the people. It's not a way to get children to the schools. So we still got to do something else.
Best practices are moving away from Sheros. They do have a place, but generally speaking, we're kind of moving away from them as a best practice if possible.
Okay. We have about 7 minutes left. I guess I was wondering, do you want to say a quick word about 929 Pierce, 1045 Palmer? And then do you want to say a little bit about, do we want to discuss the town board and the grants or lack thereof for Birchwood Lane and Cornelius? Or we
Yeah.
can-
So these are referrals from the planning board, and you don't need to take action this meeting, but I would want probably a recommendation from you at the next meeting. So this is Pierce Road, and it's a kind of 2-lot subdivision. You know, doesn't meet standards right now. 2-lot subdivision, but the question is very similar to Van Antwerp, probably, unless Jim or someone else can think of something else. Do we want to ask for a multi-use path easement along the front of this road? Be probably the main question on this one. There isn't any really other multi-use path connections that I can think of. It's kind of, you know, in the middle of a couple houses here. Brookshire Drive is back there, but there isn't any sort of backyard connections anywhere. The only question would be if we ever wanted to build a multi-use path along Pierce Road for sidewalks, would we want to ask for that now while they're doing a subdivision?
It's going to be such a lift to do it because there's nothing on Pierce. There's almost no shoulder from what I remember for most of it. A multi-use path is going to require a lot of coordination with a ton of houses. I mean, having one, you know, right away there could be a little helpful, but it's going to be a big lift to do anything on Pierce Road in any big way. I don't know that it's, you know, I don't know that it buys you a whole lot given what the whole project would require overall, but certainly it would be a step forward if that ever moved forward.
I mean, could we ask for a right of way now in case we get some money down the road so that,
Yeah, I probably wouldn't ask them to pave anything because it wouldn't connect to anything, but we could, it's kind of a question as part of our standard 2-lot, 4-lot subdivision review to request these public access multi-use path easements along the front of these yards.
I mean, we eventually want a side path on Pierce Road, don't we? I mean, I understand it's one now, but as a matter of fact, even getting one now is a message to residents and people on county roads that it might take 100 years, but our hope is eventually, especially like Pierce or St. David's, you know, do we want a side path there eventually? And if not, here's one piece that we'll have to get eventually. So if we have the authority to get it now, we don't necessarily, well, I mean, my view is we should get it now while the getting is good, but I'll defer to other judgments.
Which side would we want it on, actually? I mean, is the other, maybe the other side more conducive to it?
That's one of the issues, Carla. We're talking about essentially, you know, 1-lot subdivision, subdividing off some land. So it doesn't get us a whole lot, particularly because we have no idea what we're doing yet. If it was a large subdivision going in with multiple lots behind it, I would say, yeah, have them put the infrastructure in and bring it out to the road and eventually we'll connect to it. And I'm absolutely an advocate for that. I just don't know that we know enough to do anything. I mean, Laura, if they could just put a note on there saying, you know, the owner should be aware that at some point in the future, the town intends to put a, you know, sidewalk or path down the road, and you know, whatever kind of note you can put on there that the lawyers are okay with, I think that would, you know, that would be fine. But I don't know if we really have a good idea whether it would be this side of the road or that side of the road, how wide we'd need, you know, but a general note saying there's a potential for that in the future and the homeowner need to work with us, I think would be fine. These notes do have a way of coming back. I'm working with another town and someone's trying to develop a lot and it says you must connect to this paper street and they want to connect straight out to the road, and we're fighting them on it saying, nope, your deed says you have to go to this paper street and there was a reason for it. It's bad sight lines, everything else. So, you know, it's been 20 years and it's coming back. So you never know, but I just don't know we have a ton of information yet. It's a small piece of it.
I certainly would support that, but at least notice to the owner that if they sell it, they're still living there, that they don't come back and say, why didn't somebody say something to me? The point is, there'll be a note that's on the subdivision map that the town is looking hard at a side path on county roads, including Pierce Road, and it has, you know, a lot of traffic on it. And, you know, if it takes us 20 years to ask for it or 10 or whatever, there's no going back to say, geez, nobody's never said anything to me about this. So.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, like, take a look at it, and then or you could just have that be your formal recommendation. Yeah, we haven't been doing a lot of work on Pierce Road.
No, but that, I mean, Carla's been looking at these things from a connectivity perspective, and she's saying, well, residents on Pierce and St. David's Lane, I mean, we're looking at some on Console. Eventually, we hope to get from Console from Balltown Road down to the town line. But, you know, in terms of hooking the south side of Troy Road to the rest of the town, we need a side path on Pierce Road, and we probably need something on St. David's Lane as well too. So they're both targets for a side path on a county road.
Okay.
Yeah, and also the crosswalk, I think, is on the other side of the road. And I think there are a few neighborhoods on the opposite side of the road. This side, I think there's one neighborhood connects in, like Avon Crest, I think. But yeah, I don't know. Different if
It's a tricky one though, right, Carla? Because we have the apartments on this side of the road up
Yeah.
at Route 7. We've got a lot of the other neighborhoods that would connect to this on the other side of Pierce Road. That's why I say I don't know that we know exactly what we would do. But if we can put a note on the plans just saying that the homeowners need to be aware that it's a possibility, they need
Yes.
to work with the town, I think that's fine. But like I said, I think it's a big lift on this whole project, but they all are. So that's nothing new.
All right, so I'll make that note. Palmer doesn't have a nice map really, so you just kind of have to imagine it. But this is a kind of a double lot on Palmer that is looking to subdivide. There is already a sidewalk in front of it, and I don't know if there's really any other path connections, but I am bringing all subdivisions forward to you guys just so that you can have a look at them if you think of something that I can't think of.
I guess all I'd say is if the sidewalk's in poor shape or something's in the ADA transition plan,
Check the
No,
sidewalk. That's a good idea.
ask them to improve that now. This is the chance to try and do that, even if it's just a small segment that's in poor shape or has a lifted part from a tree.
Mhm. Yeah, that's a great idea. We'll have them check the condition of the sidewalk.
And
Generally-
finally, well, if we can fit another item in, but quickly, I learned from Laura that the town boards decided that, or at least had discussion that the town's contribution to the two grants that we applied for last year, one for a sidewalk on Cornelius and one for a sidewalk on Birchwood Lane from Troy Road down to Birchwood Elementary. I think the town is unable to allocate its money to support a grant. I mean, I guess the grant's got just a couple of days before we submit, and Laura has worked hard to persuade the town board of the merits of doing this, but they're not ready to do it this year. And
Is this the Climate Smart Communities grant? Or is this a different one?
Yeah, the 50/50 one. It's hard for them for 50/50 ones because it's still quite a lot of money for the town. They set it aside last year, but we didn't get the grant, so they spent some of it, and they don't believe that in this upcoming grant, because they're paying down a lot of bonded money this next year's budget, that they can put $600,000 into next year's budget. So I tried to see if maybe we could like chop the grant in half and carry this money forward into next year, but that also didn't seem to work. So the final fallback position, I have not met with the comptroller about that, is to see if we could pick a project to try and spend and encumber at least the money that is in there this year for sidewalks. But I have still do that meeting.
And Laura does make the point that a town dollar, goes a lot further if it's your 20% match or even a 50% match. At least you've got some state money or some grant money that's paying the other half. I mean, if we have some money left, but that gets devoted exclusively to one project, then we kind of lose our leverage ability, and it's much more expensive because, I mean, I'd almost get back to your point about, well, what's there? Can we put that into the budget for 2025 and, see if they can find some more money between now and then that would allow us to reapply for the Climate Smart Communities grant in the hope that, they can find the money that would restore the $600K that they were prepared to spend before. And maybe if it's $200K or whatever, they can find that money in the 2025 budget and allow us to go forward with these two. I mean, they are Safe Routes to Schools money, and we've highlighted how important that is. And so, I mean, it's
maybe
it's at least worth
some-
exploring with the board.
Yeah, like maybe it's a, sometimes the rock and the hard place with grants is that you haven't done the engineering yet. Like, for instance, we were able, I think, probably to get the county to take on the Knott Street sidewalk because the engineering was completed and we'd already bid it. We just didn't have the money to fund it. It's a very easy project for them to take on because, kind of the only thing that's left is the construction. Maybe a good use of the money, because we didn't get the grant, is to use it for design and create engineered drawings that we can use to be submitted to multiple different grant places, so maybe even 80-20 ones or whatever, or even 100% ones, so that we have these shovel ready projects for whatever's coming down from the infrastructure bill and stuff like that. I mean, I don't know. I kind of like the construction, because I gotta tell you, I get thank yous for the Plum Street sidewalk all the time. So I like putting the sidewalks in the ground. It makes a difference to people and they like them. But you also probably might get more for your money if you try and make some shovel ready projects with that sidewalk money as well. I don't know. I haven't met with her, but it is an idea. If we really want to be more conscious of how much money are we getting for a dollar, we might be leveraging more if we actually do engineering rather than construction. But that's there.
Well, quickly, since Laura's going to have the meeting with the controller, I'd just like to poll the committee today. I mean, let's get money in the budget to do some side work this year with the money that's there? Or do members feel like let's try to do some design work on some ideas we've had and see if we can't get leveraged money with some design work that's already done in the 2025 budget? So, Catherine, let me pick on you. Can you give us a thought quickly?
I like the idea of doing the design drawings at this point. So then we could take advantage of other grants in the future. We'll have projects that are shovel ready.
It probably leverages
Basically.
your dollar
And I
better.
just think it makes more sense from a
Okay.
money standpoint.
Carla? Oh, you've muted yourself. You're still muted. There you go.
Okay.
Now we can hear you.
Oh, yeah. And I agree with Catherine. That's, yeah.
Okay, Mr. Levy. You're muted, Jim, but your turn.
Yep, I was muted. Nope, I agree. I was muted. Couldn't find the button.
Agree with Catherine and Carla, or
I think it makes sense.
Yeah, he's in and out.
Yeah, I agree with Catherine.
Okay.
and Carla.
Ben? You're
Same
muted,
for me.
Ben. I
Yep.
agree with the position. Let's try to persuade the town to use some of the money that's still there, if they'll allocate it to doing some design work, and then try to get money in 2025.
It does make our projects way more competitive if you spend the money, because you've already invested in it. It shows that you have already spent a decent amount of your own money.
Let me
Like,
just ask you
engineering is
another
a
thing
lot.
quickly. We have Cornelius in Birchwood Lane. Is there another idea that we should be talking about, that we should try to get design stuff on if we're going to spend money on design work? I mean,
Palmer is actually was also in there. Palmer was.
okay, Palmer, yes.
I have some I have authorized concept designs for the sidewalk connection along Console Road between Glen Eddy and, is it Glen Eddy? No, what's the other one? Ingersoll? Between Ingersoll and Hannaford Plaza there. Depending on what those concept designs come back, that might be one that we can pop in to design as well.
Oh, that's great. Yeah.
And I mean, we'd have to do some more work, but there's a sidewalk on Nicholas from
Well, let me have the conversation with the comptroller, and if engineering
Okay.
makes a lot of sense,
Okay.
then we could kind of get an idea or do a, get some quotes for how much the engineering is going to cost, and then target the places that we think would be the best shovel-ready projects. Yeah.
Finally, have we sent our priority letters to the school district and the county and the state? Did we send those out?
So, no, I think that we were finalizing the goals, and I think
We did
maybe-
approve the goals for 2024. We
But
haven't
I'm not
approved
sure that
priority
we
letters.
did the final priority letters. I'll have to look, but no, we haven't sent them out for 2024.
Well, I mean, can you
Okay,
share
I'll
those
see
with
what
the committee?
Status list. And if we need to, I'll bring them back to the other meeting. And if they're already approved, then we can
Okay.
work on signing them. I think
Okay.
last year you and Ben signed them, and then the supervisor.
Yep.
did too.
Okay, so at our next meeting, we may want to try to talk about speed humps on Birchwood Lane. We still have Winnie Road. Well, certainly the Crimson Oak Court folks and other things. And I do want to say thanks to everybody for the demonstration project. The the bike rodeo and the exercises around town hall was a big hit. I was a little disappointed we didn't have some town board members there, but the public really resonated to it. They liked the obstacle course in the parking lot of town hall. They liked the short half-mile course for some bike riders. Unfortunately, our police escort had to go to a call, so we lost them. But residents, I mean, people who rode the big loop really seemed to enjoy doing that, and we got good publicity, and it was really a great bike rodeo. And so we need to thank Trish Bergami and all the committee people that got there to help do it. It was a big success. So, well, anyway, unless no one else has another piece of business, I
Jim?
move that we.
I remember you saying that you took some pictures of that event. Could you send them to me if they don't have like easily identifiable people on them? And then we should do a little write up and put it on our website.
Yes.
Yep, I'll
Yeah.
send you pictures, absolutely.
Okay. Okay. Thank everyone for coming today. It was a good meeting, and I move we adjourn for the day, and we'll have our next meeting August. I guess I'm not sure whatever the day is on the schedule for August. We'll be back again. So I so
Yeah.
move.
I'll second.
Second by Ben. Raise your hand if you can adjourn today, and we're unanimous. Thank you all for coming, and we'll see you. See you soon.
Thank you.